Hello, everyone. On this episode, I'm going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I believe this went into production about 3 years ago, so I've been waiting a long time for this movie to come out. Not that I was excited or anything, I just wanted to see if it was going to be as bad as I thought it was going to be. Yeah, I saw the movie. I guess I got out about 6 hours ago, and I've just been processing it and listening to other reviews. Like I watched Nerderotics review and F&T tonight. Got all those guys' opinions of it, and I also watched Critical Drinker, Midnight's Edge, and I even got Oliver Harper's opinion on it. Oddly enough, surprisingly, Oliver Harper gave it a positive review, which I was kind of surprised by. I was like, okay, you're the only one. I mean, it sounded like he basically gave it like a 7 out of 10, but compared to everybody else, he's like the only one who kind of liked it. I'm just going to go through the whole movie. I'm going to take my time because there's just a lot to talk about, a lot to process. I mean, and just give my opinion of what they should have done to market it better and just how they could have made a better movie. I mean, it's just I've really been thinking about this ever since I left the theater. When I left the theater, I was like, what the hell did I just watch? Because it just, I mean, it looked like an Indiana Jones. It kind of sounded like an Indiana Jones movie and stuff, but it just wasn't an Indiana Jones movie. I mean, it's just so bizarre. Basically, yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that if somebody told an AI to make an Indiana Jones movie, this is what it would look like. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, the beginning of the movie, they do the production studio logos and stuff. And with all the other Indiana Jones movies, even with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, they always did like a dissolve with the Paramount logo. It always became a mountain in real life, or I think in Crystal Skull it was like a what the hell is that called, a gopher, or gopher mound or whatever the fuck, prairie dog mound or something. So it always, whenever they showed the Paramount logo at the start of the movie, it would dissolve into something in real life. They didn't do that in this movie. I was like, right away I noticed that. I was like, what the fuck? Now what they did was, I think they intentionally did this with the Lucasfilm emblem or logo. It dissolved into like a latch or a lock on the door. I was like, okay, that's not how we do this. It's, it's supposed to be the Paramount logo. I mean, fuck you. Lucasfilm, I don't even think any of the old Indiana Jones movies had the Lucasfilm logo on them. Maybe Crystal Skull did, but yeah, I was just like, right away, I was like, okay, that's wrong. But at least they got the font for the titles right. They basically went back to the Raiders and Last Crusade font so that looked pretty good. But yeah, and then we see young Indiana Jones, and well, younger. I guess he would have been in his mid 40s here. Yeah, that's the thing too. They didn't even say what year the movie was set in, which kind of pissed me off because in all the other ones, it said 1935 and Temple of Doom. It said 1936 and Raiders, 1938 and Last Crusade. And I think it said, well, was it 1952, 1954 in Crystal Skull? And this one doesn't say anything. Even later on, when we go, 15 years into the future, or 20 years into the future, or whatever it is, the only reason why we know it's 1969 is because Apollo 11 just happened. So, yeah. So I guess the movie starts off in 44, 45, and Indiana Jones is trying to sneak in to get some artifacts from the Nazis, and he gets caught, and we see the new CGI face on Harrison Ford, and it looks okay, but I saw it on the big screen, and I'm just like, it's I guess a little bit better than what was his name, Peter Cushing and shit, what was that? Rogue One, Star Wars. Yeah, a little better than that, but I mean, a lot of people are saying they should just use regular deep fake. Like that might have looked better. Probably would have been a lot cheaper too. And a lot of guys, like Critical Drinker, was talking about how the entire opening part is shot at nighttime. It's very dark. You can barely see what's going on. And I was like, okay, yeah, they did that to hide the CGI. Yeah, try and make it look better than it is. And that's just cheap. Yeah. But, I mean, if you're going to do that, fine. And Andre from Midnight's Edge was like, man, they should have just made the whole movie with younger Indiana Jones. And I'm like, yeah, that would have been fun. Like, why the fuck haven't we had Indiana Jones in World War II? You know? Like, get Sean Patrick Flannery to do it or something. I mean, Indy would have been in his mid 40s during the war and would have just been, he probably would have just done intelligence stuff like he did in World War One for the most part. You know, in World War One, he was on the front line in the trenches. He was a messenger. Did a little surveillance with the Air Corps. You know, taking photographs of trenches and stuff. But most of the war, he was in espionage. You know, because he was such a great linguist that they could just drop him into Germany and he would be fine. And I imagine in World War II, it would have been pretty much the same thing. I mean, he's not going to be on the trench, you know, he's not going to be on the front lines of World War II because he's valuable in other ways, you know. But, yeah, imagine him getting to do that. Like, that would have been awesome. I don't even think any of the books or any of the video games, I mean, I don't think anything really shows Indiana Jones in World War II. So that would have been a pretty cool place to drop him into. Would have been expensive as fuck having the CGI like that, but would have been cool. Maybe if they ever do an Indiana Jones series, that would be the time to do it. Because young Indiana Jones was in the teens, and that covered World War One. Then it ended in like 1922 when he was going off to the University of Chicago to get his archaeology career going. And then the books pretty much took place after that, leading up to, I guess, Temple of Doom. Yeah, so 1935. So yeah, we've seen him in the teens, we've seen him in the 20s, we've seen him in the 30s. Let's go to the 40s. You know, that would be an interesting place to do it, I think. But yeah, so the opening, yeah, I think most people agree that's the best part of the movie because it's the most like Indiana Jones. And I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, it was okay. You know, I would have liked to, now if I saw a 2 hour movie of that, probably would have been okay. Yeah. But, yeah, you know, it was okay. I don't know. I don't really have much to say about it. It was just like, all right, yeah. It's kind of CGI out the ass. I mean, everything was fake. And I hate that. I hate that. That was the thing with the original Indiana Jones movies. These were fucking real, man. These were real places. These were real stunts. I mean, some of the stuntmen in the original Indiana Jones movies, these guys were like the best stuntmen in the world. I mean, you had Vic Armstrong and, damn, I'm forgetting the guy with the sword who gets shot by Indy. That guy was like one of the best stuntmen too. What was that, Terry Leonard, I think? Like, these stunts were just incredible. Like, in this movie, though, like, nothing really lands. Nothing really looks painful or dangerous because it's all fake. I mean, you go and watch Raiders when Indiana Jones is in the bar trying to get the Staff of Ra headpiece. And he's like, shoots that guy in the head. It's like, whoa, shit. You know, it's like, damn, you really feel that bullet hit the guy's skull. And, you know, the punches really hurt and land. The part where he's being dragged by the truck, I mean, that looks like, fuck, that would suck. Because it's real. And there's just no substitute for realism, you know. And why do you think Tom Cruise is doing such a good job? He's doing all these crazy stunts in the Mission Impossible movies, or even in Maverick, Top Gun Maverick, really flying a plane. I mean, there's just no substitute for that realism. And, you know, I'm going to start being kind of harsh and rough with stuntmen because I'm tired of seeing the CGI shit. And if you can't do it in real life, then you're just not good enough. Because there's so many of these other guys who are doing this shit in real life. If your movie has to use CGI for a stunt, and then you're just not good. Yeah, you're not good enough. I mean, like I was saying, Tom Cruise riding a motorcycle off a fucking mountain. You go back and watch the old James Bond movies and all the crazy stunts they were doing, the original Indiana Jones movies. I mean, there's a lot of great stunts nowadays. It's just for whatever reason, a lot of these movies just think, oh, we can just CGI it. Yeah, but it looks fake as shit. I mean, that entire opening, aside from some of the interiors, the shit was fake, all of it, and it just doesn't, it just doesn't have the weight to it. And later on, I mean, even Oliver Harper, even though he likes the movie, I mean, he said the action was the worst in the entire series. And I would have to agree. I mean, the later on, the tuk-tuk chase scene in Tangier, I mean, that was boring as fuck. I was just like, okay. I mean, the editing was a lot better than it was in the trailer for that scene. But it's just, yeah. It's like, okay, yeah. Because you could tell the actors are not sitting in a real vehicle. They're not going down a real dusty desert road in the middle of the city. It's just, yeah. And, in Raiders, it really looked like they were in like a shitty part of Egypt, Like this is a dangerous place. But in this movie, it's just like, eh. Now, when they're walking around, I guess it kind of reminded me of traveling and stuff. Being in some rough parts of a town. And in fact, I think what I was thinking in the tuk-tuk race or chase was just like, man, this would be shitty in real life. So I've been down these narrow roads and everything. I'm just like, fuck, this would just be, yeah, would not be fun. But in the movie, they're just doing all this crazy shit. And, yeah, so, I mean, the stunts in the movie were forgettable. Like, nothing stood out. Nothing looked great. I would say, though, overall, the CGI in the movie was okay for a CGI extravaganza movie like this. But Indiana Jones should not be a CGI extravaganza. That was my problem, too, with the Crystal Skull. Was like, what the fuck are you doing? That was never what Indiana Jones was. Indiana Jones was real life, real stunts, real people doing crazy shit. That's what made it great. Now, occasionally you might have some like really bad, like that part in Raiders where the guys on the motorcycle go off the cliff. I mean, whoa. That always made me just go, ugh, why did they do that? I wish that they would fix that. Other than that, though, it's awesome. Yeah. Hell, to this day, the tank going over the cliff in Last Crusade, that's like, man, when I saw that when I was 3 years old, that was the most badass fucking thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I still think it's freaking cool. Yeah, I mean, I used to break so many toys recreating that scene. Just like, That was so freaking cool, but there's nothing, absolutely nothing like that in this movie. Nothing that's going to inspire the next generation of filmmakers. And I know the director, James Mangold, he's of the right age. I know he probably loves Raiders of the Lost Ark. He probably saw it 20 times, maybe more. But, I mean, it's just, I don't really see the passion here, though. But you have to remember, this is a Kathleen Kennedy movie. She's the boss. She decides what happens for the most part. She has to okay the story. She has to okay the director. And James Mangold is not, he's a really good director, but he's not a fun director. I think it was Andre on Midnight's Edge pointed that out. Because this is not a fun movie. No, not at all. In fact, I found it to be quite boring. Like, I was almost like looking at my watch during the movie. In fact, I did. I think a couple of times I was like, what the hell? All right. Because this is a long movie. It's the longest Indiana Jones movie in the series. And you feel it. Even Oliver Harper said, yeah, this one's pretty long. I think it's like 2.5 hours, maybe 2:40. Yeah, 2 hours 40 minutes, something like that. It's yeah. I mean, with trailers, it's gonna be a 3 hour experience. Yeah. Like I think my showing started at 1:30, and I don't even know when I got out of there. Maybe 5 or something. Yeah. And yeah, it's just, but yeah, basically after the opening, we see Indiana Jones in his apartment. His son's dead. Mutt. Ugh. I did not like that character. Don't even like its name. Mutt. Like, who the fuck names their son Mutt? Like, stop it. And yeah, I mean, his son was killed in Vietnam, which, yeah, I mean, that's believable, kind of. I mean, Mutt would have been pushing 40 years old by this time, but, And it's just depressing. Like, who the fuck wants to see Indiana Jones in a shitty apartment by himself getting divorce papers and fucking. A lot of guys were saying too that like old couples back then they didn't get divorced. I mean, I was like, no. And I mean, that might be true. I don't know. I wasn't alive in the 1960s. But, I mean, Indiana Jones is like 70 years old. Yeah, he was born in, what was it, July 1st? Oh, fuck. It is after midnight, and it just so happens to be July 1st. Happy birthday, Indiana Jones. Yeah. So, he was born July 1st, what was it, 1899. So, yeah, he would have been, let's see, so the moon landing was, what, July 20th, 1969? So, yeah, he would have just turned 70 years old. And Marion, I guess, would have been 60, 59, something like that. So, yeah, I mean, did they get divorced back then? I don't know. But she was just mad at Indy and grieving over the loss of her son and stuff. So, they're separated, getting divorced, and Indy's going to teach a class, and he doesn't really give a fuck. His students don't really give a fuck. Everybody's talking about the moon landing and everything. And that's when we meet Helena Shaw, I think is her name. And played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She's probably one of the most insufferable, annoying characters in movie history. And when she was announced that she was going to be in the movie, I guess about 3 years ago, we all knew that she was going to be that. I mean, that's why we all went, oh, fuck, here we go again, Kathleen Kennedy. Because we all knew that she was going to be this character. And she's exactly what we thought she was going to be. It's almost like you want to tell yourself, they can't be that stupid. They can't, think that they can just do that, like have her be a feminist and just annoying and give Indy shit and stuff. But yeah, they do. They do. they put their heads in the bear trap and just let it go off. I mean, it's just crazy, crazy. And a lot of people online are saying that's another British brunette self-insert by Kathleen Kennedy, because if you look at a lot of her shows, they always have a British brunette, and that's considered a personal stand-in basically for Kathleen Kennedy. I mean, look at Daisy Ridley. Look at the chick from Rogue One. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is probably, well, hell, there's the chick in the Solo Star Wars story, whatever the fuck that was called. Another British brunette chick. That's very fucking weird. It's definitely a thing. It's kind of like gingers are being taken over in Hollywood too. It's like, there's enough evidence to kind of lend it credence. It's just a theory, but I mean, if you look into it, it's like, that is kind of weird. Because, I mean, I think you could have had so many other women do this role and they would have been better. Or, I mean, it's just, I don't even want to think about this character. I mean, there were so many times, like, I guess if you've seen that scene during the tuk-tuk chase, he was like, what would your father think of what you're doing? Because basically she's trying to steal the Dial of Destiny and sell it on the black market. And she's just like, what do you mean? And he's like, you're trying to steal this and do all this crazy shit. And she's like, what? I'm awesome. I'm beautiful, intelligent, independent, da da da. And I mean, it's just, ugh, cringe, cringe, cringe. It's just horrible. And I mean, she's just, ugh, just a very, very unlike. I mean, she's stealing this thing, like trying. I mean, the Nazis are after her. She doesn't give a fuck. She's like got a mobster boyfriend who's after her, and I mean, she's just not a good person. She even says she's only in it for the money, and it's like, okay. And she almost gets Indiana Jones killed, like practically intentionally, almost gets him killed several times in the movie. And I mean, she's just a horrible, horrible person, horrible character. And we're supposed to like this chick. I mean, I mean, it's almost more her movie than Indy's. I mean, pretty much in the second half of the movie, she becomes, I don't know, the co-star. Yeah. I mean, she definitely isn't the damsel in distress or even the badass sidekick like Marion was. No, she's like right up there with Indy. She figures shit out. She does shit. She probably kills more. She probably kills a hell of a lot more people than Indy does. I mean, there was a part where she actually jumps on the back of the car and breaks like the windshield and starts strangling a guy while the car is driving like 50 miles per hour. I mean, it was the most absurd thing I've ever seen in my life. And it's just crazy. Like, what are you fucking thinking? I mean, Sala shows up in the movie to wish Indy well and to give him some information. Like, that's how Indy gets to Tangier, because he hears about the black market sale going on. And Sala's like, hey, I bought my passport just in case you want me to come along. And Indy's like, no, it's okay. And I'm like, fuck you, movie. Come on. This would have been so much better with the guys running around. Like, imagine Indiana Jones, his son, even though I hate Shia LaBeouf, but it could have worked. I mean, I have to say in Crystal Skull, the scenes where it's this Indy and Mutt talking to each other, I kind of like those scenes. Yeah. Because Indy's kind of learning how to be a father, and Mutt's never really had a dad, so it's like they're kind of figuring each other out and stuff. So I kind of like that. And that could have worked in this, and have Solid tag along. Like, come on. It was like my favorite level in Uncharted 4 was when the guys went to Madagascar. That was just awesome because it's the guys. We're driving around Madagascar in a Jeep. We got cool puzzles. We got the badass convoy part of the game. I mean, it was just freaking awesome and fun. And that's the biggest letdown with this movie, is it's just not fun. Indy's grieving. He's old. He's hurt. He's not really kicking ass. I mean, I think in the entire movie he kills 2 people. I think that's one more than he killed in Crystal Skull, but still, it's just ridiculous. Like, this is supposed to be an all-out. If this is going to be the last Indiana Jones movie, come on. Get your balls hard, get your balls out, get your dick hard. Let's go kill some bad guys. Let's hairy chest, this masculine testosterone. Let's fuck shit up. Let's kill some Nazis, man. Let's do something. And instead it's like, oh, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. None of her jokes landed. Holy shit. And I've heard that a lot too. Like, there was one part where they're in Tangier and the Tunisian police show up and they got guns pointed at Indiana and Helena, and she like does a joke like, yeah, I told them to shoot you. I'm like, fuck you, bitch. And second of all, that kind of bugged me too, because Indiana Jones doesn't use his linguistic skills almost at all until the end of the movie. Like, when he's talking to the Germans, he's speaking English. When he's talking to the Tunisians, he's speaking, it's Tangier in Morocco. Yeah, I think Tangier is in Morocco. It's Tunis, that's in Tunisia, that's right. So yeah, he literally speaks English to these Moroccans like they would know English. And it was pissing me off because I'm like, Indiana Jones is an amazing linguist. The guy knows like 23 languages. And fuck, Arabic was his first foreign language he ever learned. So he should be the one telling them to shoot her, you know? It just pissed me off. But at least later on in the movie, he gets to use his languages. So I like that. But yeah, and the main villain, Voller, I'm a big fan of Mads Mikkelsen. Like, I've been a fan of his since I saw that movie Valhalla Rising. I was like, fuck, that was like 15 years ago when I saw that or so. And I'm glad to see that he's having a good career. I mean, he's been in like every fucking franchise now: Star Wars, Indiana Jones, just everything pretty much. Harry Potter and stuff. And some Marvel stuff. Like I think he was the bad guy in the first Doctor Strange movie and stuff. But I thought he did a good job. I mean, he's always a good actor and plays a good villain. I just feel like his character was woefully underdeveloped. Yeah. Well, all the villains were underdeveloped. I'm like, what was his name? Boyd Holbrook or whatever? I don't understand his character's motivations at all. I'm like, okay, you're a CIA agent and you just start helping the Nazis out. Why? Like, and then later in the movie, he even has like a full-on Nazi uniform. I'm like, okay, well, how did this happen? Like, I mean, he's kind of portrayed as a Southern boy with a Southern accent and stuff, but I'm like, is he a KKK guy in the CIA and jumps from there to the Nazis? Like, I'm just like, I don't know. And the big heavy in this movie is a big old boy. Like, this guy is huge. He's probably like 6'5", 300 pounds. This guy would have eaten Pat Roach for breakfast. This guy was huge. And of course, he's killed by the little kid, Teddy, in kind of a gruesome way. Yeah, Teddy like handcuffs him to a metal grate underwater, and I'm not convinced that that guy couldn't have gotten out of that situation. Like, I think he could have broken the grate because the grate's like 2,000 years old. I mean, if it's made out of iron, that thing's going to be rusted like crazy, oxidized like crazy. If it was made out of bronze or copper, I mean, he's going to snap that shit off. Hell, I'm not even entirely convinced he couldn't break the handcuffs. Yeah, like, this guy is fucking huge. I mean, like, come on. And it was kind of gruesome having a child kill somebody like that. I mean, the guy's an asshole. He kills innocent people all the time, the bad guy, but still, it's kind of a brutal way to go. But Teddy was kind of annoying. I mean, he was just, everybody's like, I guess he's supposed to be this version of a Short Round, and I'm just like, Short Round, he was kind of a little ridiculous. Like, this kid's like kicking adults and beating them up, even though they're like little 100-pound Indian guys. It's still a little, okay, kid. Yeah, Short Round, you're like 70 pounds. You're not taking an adult man down. I'm sorry. And Teddy, it's just like, do we have to have a kid in this movie? Did we? And he's a little thieving son of a bitch, too. Yeah, I hate thieves. Like, the guy steals Antonio Banderas' lighter and shit, and Indy's watch, and this is like, knock that off, you little fuck. And yeah, I mean, just a lot of the characters are just underdeveloped, and the ones that we do spend a lot of time with are annoying. Like Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character, it's just like, I'm curious if, what I hope is that this movie bombs so hard that Kathleen Kennedy gets fired, and then James Mangold is able to release a director's cut, because there was so many fucking plot holes in this movie. Like, my God. Like, there were just so many underdeveloped characters, plot holes. Like, just so much. Like, the CIA guys who are helping out Voller, they had a boss. The guy had like a broken ankle or something. And then after the part where Indy's almost captured early on, when Helena traps him in there with the bad guys, leaves him for dead basically. Basically, Indy like drops a couple of bookcases on the agents and escapes. yeah, we never see the boss again after that. I'm like, is he dead? Like they had a CIA boss, and then all of a sudden they don't have him. I'm like, where did he go? Because basically the CIA agents join Voller and go off and do all this crazy shit. I'm like, you're not gonna be allowed to do that in the CIA. Like they're gonna be like, okay, our because Voller's also like our biggest rocket scientist. So okay, we got our ex-Nazi rocket scientist missing. We got like 3 CIA agents missing. Like they're gonna freaking look for you, and it's just kind of weird. And the one good CIA agent's this black chick who's pretty cool. Her marketing was kind of weird. Like you can even see her face on the poster. She's just always scowling and stuff. But yeah, she actually had my favorite line in the entire movie when Boyd Holbrook's character is like trying to shoot up Indy. She just like yells at him, "You trigger happy cracker." And I was like, yeah, he is a trigger happy cracker. Yeah, he deserves that. It's a good explanation of him. But they end up killing her, and it's just like, okay, well, it's just man. There's just so much to talk about. I feel like I've already been talking about this movie for half an hour. Um, but yeah, I mean, Indy basically goes to Morocco. Then they have the tuk tuk chase, and that's just. I was bored doing that. The only emotion or feeling I had doing that entire thing was like really thinking like, all right, if I ever had to do this here, this would be annoying. Driving through this traffic and just I wasn't like excited by the movie. It was just like, man, this would fucking suck in real life. So I've driven down streets like this, and yeah, it just wouldn't be fun. And that scene goes on forever. That's like a 20-minute chase scene. And it's like not good at all. I mean, compare that to the other convoy, what I call convoy scenes in the other Indiana Jones movies, like the truck scene and Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, that's one of the greatest action scenes of all time. The part where Indy goes up against the tank in Last Crusade, that's one of the greatest action scenes in movie history. I mean, that shit's amazing. Amazing. Those are like 20-minute scenes, pretty much. And this is just nothing. I mean, it's just like, can we skip this, please? And I guess after that, they get out of Morocco. They go to Greece. They're still trying to get the Dial of Destiny. And I'm calling it the Dial of Destiny because I can't pronounce it. It's like the Antikythera theorem. And the funny thing is, thanks to an episode of Modern Marvels I saw on the History Channel like 20 years ago, I actually know about this device. And if you want to see it, you can go see it in the History Museum of Athens. It's actually a real thing. It doesn't do at all what the movie says it does, but it is like a crazy, super advanced piece of technology. Like they think it was made in like the early 200 BCs or early 200s BC. There we go. And civilization wouldn't see anything like that again until like the early Renaissance, like 1500 years after that. So that's just how freaking advanced that thing is. So yeah, pretty interesting. And in this movie, of course, they make it a time travel device and da 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 da. But yeah, so when they get to Greece, they meet up with Antonio Banderas, who's a longtime friend of Indiana Jones. And Nerdorotic had a pretty interesting theory. Like, was that supposed to be Katanga? Because he actually had Katanga's hat from Raiders. But unfortunately, the guy who played Katanga has been dead for, a couple of years now. So I was like, shit. I wonder if that was supposed to be Katanga. That would have made it a lot more, interesting. So yeah, they go to the original diving site where they found the Antikythera theorem thing. And that was another scene that was really dark, but I mean, in real life, it probably would be pretty dark diving in these waters. And Indiana Jones gets attacked by like a swarm of fucking eels and stuff, and that was kind of crazy. And they were talking about how the ship was full of like 100 Centurion skeletons and stuff. And I'm like, probably not. A Centurion's kind of high up in the ranks. Like, yeah, I mean, these guys would have been kind of busy. Yeah, a little too busy to be all clumped up in the one ship, even if it is carrying the device. But yeah, that scene was again kind of long, and Helena kind of leaves Indy for dead, but kind of goes back and gets him. It's yeah. Then Voller shows up, and yeah, it's kind of a weird scene. Like basically, they just shoot Antonio Banderas' character, kill him off, kind of like they did in Uncharted. It's just like, oh, okay, he's dead now. And it kind of came across like, okay, we can't afford to keep paying you to be in this movie, so yeah, we gotta get rid of you. It was just very odd, yeah. And then Helena goes on this big thing, just basically telling the Nazis everything. But then it turns out that she's actually got a piece of dynamite, and she uses that with Indy's help to escape. And when all three of them, Teddy, Indy, and her, are on the ship escaping, her and Teddy are like, "Hey, we did it! I'm so awesome!" And then Indy actually says something like, a person would say. He's like, my friend just died. Can you like calm it down? And she's like, oh yeah, sorry about that. It was like, man, somebody writing the script actually had a conscience. Like usually they just brush these things off. Like, oh yeah, somebody died. Oh well. Or they don't even usually mention it. It's like, no, this guy was like brutally shot like 5 times in front of us. And I knew this guy for a long time. And yeah, I actually thought that was some good writing. Yeah, I was like, oh, shit, yeah. Because usually in these things, that's why people kind of call Nathan Drake a psychopath. Because, I mean, the guy kills like hundreds of guys and just chuckles right afterwards. You know, there's like no processing of what just happened. So I actually kind of like that. That he was like, yeah, I'm glad we escaped, but my friend was murdered. So, yeah, calm it down. And then after that, what the fuck happened? I just saw this movie like 5 hours ago, and I'm trying to remember. Fuck, I think they go to Sicily. That's right, because basically Archimedes, in the movie they say Archimedes created the Antikythera theorem. God, I'm butchering that. But yeah, he basically created the Dial of Destiny, and they have to go and find the other half of it. So they think he's buried with it, so they have to go and find his tomb. Which, to my knowledge, yeah, we still haven't found Archimedes' tomb in real life. So that's, you know, that would be right up there with Alexander the Great's tomb. So that would be really cool. And so yeah, they kind of do a little tomb raiding Indiana Jones thing. That was kind of cool. Again, it would have been a lot better with Indiana Jones and Sala. I mean, that would have been funny. These two old fucks, you know, trying to climb this cliff and stuff. I mean, that would have been so much better than Helena and Indy. I mean, it's just and yeah, they find it, and you know, disable the traps and everything. And you know, a lot of things in the trailers were not in this movie. Yeah, I find that interesting. Like, remember in the trailer where Helena is like disabling one of the stone ball traps and stuff? Like, that's not in the movie. So yeah, a lot of stuff was cut from this movie, and considering how long the movie is, I mean, a director's cut would be well over 3 hours long, probably. And yeah, and so yeah, I'm trying to fucking remember. So yeah, they find his tomb. He's buried with a watch. And they're like, where the fuck did he get a watch from? And he has the other half of the Dial of Destiny. I will say the production value was pretty good in this movie. Like the sets and props and stuff were really good. Like I liked how Archimedes' skeleton had 2 coins in the eyes, you know, to pay the boatmen and stuff. And Indy's apartment had a couple of items, like it had one of the pictures from Last Crusade and a couple of nice pictures of Marion from Raiders and stuff. But But he should have a much nicer apartment and much more cool stuff than that. I mean, my God. Can you imagine how many things Indiana Jones has accumulated over the decades? Like, geez. Maybe not like Lara Croft's mansion with the Ark of the Covenant in her living room, but, something a little nicer than that. But yeah, so anyway, I think Volo shows up again and he takes the Dial of Destiny and they kidnap Teddy and blah, 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 blah. Then Indy gets shot and they kidnap him and take him on board a Heinkel bomber because Volo's plan is to go back to 1939, like August 20th, I think. I can remember that, but yeah. Like basically 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks before Hitler invades Poland, basically kicking off World War II. His plan is to basically go back through time using the Dial of Destiny, fly to Munich. He's dressed up as a SS officer and he's basically going to go and kill Hitler and take over and correct all the mistakes that the Third Reich made and lead it to victory. And basically he thinks he's got the device figured out so that he can go back to that precise time. And they throw Indy on board the Heinkel, and all of a sudden all these like Nazis show up. It was pretty funny. I'm like, where the fuck did all these guys come from? I guess they're former Nazi soldiers and stuff. I mean, there were a lot of neo-Nazis and former Nazis who were part of soldiers reunions and all that stuff. So I mean, these probably wouldn't be that hard to get a couple of guys together, get some of the old timers back together again and stuff. So yeah, I guess it kind of worked. But then the CIA guy, Boyd Holbrook's character, like goes full on Nazi and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm missing a scene to describe that or explain that. So I thought that was kind of weird, but because I mean it's kind of a big thing for a Southerner to betray his country and become a full-on Nazi. Like, these guys are pretty patriotic. I mean, so I don't know. But yeah, that was just kind of weird. And then they fly the Heinkel bomber into the temporal vortex to go back in time, and Teddy can kind of fly his airplane. And the most ridiculous thing in the entire, maybe the most ridiculous thing in the entire movie is Helena steals a motorcycle and chases the Heinkel bomber down the runway. It is monsoon season, full on rainstorm, and she's able to catch up to the plane and jump on the landing gear. I'm like, as a person, because I work at the busiest airport in the world, driving those vehicles with no roof, no windshield, nothing. So I'm basically driving in whatever weather happens to be going on at that time. When it rains, it sucks. Like when it really rains, I can't see shit because somehow the rain finds my eyeballs like they're magnetized to them. I mean, it's weird. And sometimes me and the other drivers just have to pull over and wait until the rain calms down. And somehow she's just able to go like 60 miles per hour, no goggles, no helmet. She's fine. I did kind of like how the thrust from the propeller kind of pushed her back, but I'm like, you're not going to be able to see shit. And it's nighttime too? That was just, I just found that unbelievable. And she's also able to steer. Like, it's hard enough not being able to see, but your motorcycle is going to be wanting to slip and slide all over the place, especially when you get that blast from the propellers. I mean, it's like, geez. So I thought that was kind of bullshit. But you know what? I was like, why is Indiana Jones not doing this kind of shit? Like, I want to see Indy take the initiative and kick ass. But Chris Gore made a pretty good point after he saw the movie. He said he really liked the first half of the movie, but then the second half of the movie felt like it was made for one audience, Kathleen Kennedy. So, yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is just kicking ass left and right, and just, yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then she gets on the bomber and goes through the vortex, and then boom, we're in 214 or 204 BC. The Romans are invading Syracuse, which is where Archimedes was, and he actually died during the battle. And I mean, it's cheesy and stupid, and it sounds like something out of, a Rob McGregor Indiana Jones book or something. But yeah, Indiana Jones goes back in time to ancient Rome. It's crazy, but I enjoyed it because it was cool. I was like, oh shit, that's cool. We're seeing an ancient Rome battle, essentially. I love historical epics, so I kind of liked it. But it's just so ridiculous. Like, the Boyd Holbrook's characters, like, freaking out. They're all freaking out because they were supposed to go back to 1939, and they're like, well, where the fuck are we? Like, there's hundreds of Roman ships attacking Syracuse, and Boyd Holbrook's character just whips out a MG-34 and just like shooting at them from the plane, and it's just like, oh my god, this is crazy. They really thought this was a good idea. It was fun for me because I'm like, okay, we're getting to see Archimedes' inventions against the Romans, like the mirrors, using the sunbeams to burn the Roman ships, and his metal claw machines that would pick up the ships and toss them and stuff. So I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. I mean, just for like crazy, cheesy, historical action, it was pretty fun. But yeah, so I was kind of okay with that. A lot of people though did not like that. A lot of all the people on F&T were like, "This is the dumbest fucking shit I've ever seen in my life." And yeah, but then Indiana Jones kills like his second guy in the entire movie, shoots him, and Indy only uses his whip, I think, once or twice the entire movie. Like, it's just like, do you guys not know what Indiana Jones is? Like, he was supposed to be an action hero from like the 1930s and 50s and 40s, Like, he's supposed to be kicking some ass here, Now, it doesn't mean that he kills all the bad guys. Like, Marion might have killed more Nazis than him and Raiders and stuff. But Indy kicks some ass. And he just doesn't do that in this one. Doesn't do it pretty much at all in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So it's just like, right. But yeah, so I think Helena tries to save Indy, but then she almost dies. And he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I'm trying to rescue you. And ugh. But then she shoots Voller, and the plane is somehow getting hit by Roman ballistae. Like, the engines are going down and the plane's about to crash and shit, and it's just like, this is just wacky as fuck. It was entertaining on a big ass movie theater screen, and my theater was loud as hell too, so I was just like, okay. Now on the small screen, this is gonna look stupid as fuck. I can guarantee that. But yeah, eventually Indiana Jones gets a parachute, and he and Helena jump, and then the plane crashes, killing Boyd Holbrook's character and Bowler, and Archimedes shows up. Kind of cool seeing Archimedes, and he takes Bowler's watch, which is why he ends up being buried with it later on. And yeah, Indiana Jones is pretty fucked up. He's got a bullet hole in his chest, and after all this shit. But I have to say, the story to me is like kind of like understood Indiana Jones, because that was a thing the guys on F&T were kind of bitching about. Like, why the fuck would Indiana Jones want to stay in the past? Because he's like, just leave me here. I don't have anything in the future. My son's dead. My wife's divorced me. Just leave me here. I've studied this stuff my entire life. Like, wow, this is the actual Battle of Syracuse. Like, geez, Archimedes is here. The Romans are here. This is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, I'd probably be the same way. I'm like, why the hell would I want to go back? And then Helena all of a sudden gives a shit about anything other than money. She's like, no, you can't stay here. You're going to die, You got a bullet hole in your chest, and you can't stay here because you'll fuck up history. And he's like, well, is that a bad thing? Like, turning seeing how history goes. I mean, maybe it'd be a good thing for me to mess with some things. And I mean, I guess if Indy really wanted to, he could mess up history. Like, you could show them, all right, here's the formula for gunpowder, or here's how to collect electricity. You guys have a lot of copper laying around. All right, instead of making bonds, let's make some cables and shit. Like, he really, especially if he got to work with Archimedes. I mean, the two of them, they could really do some stuff. And but I don't think Indy would have survived that long. Like, he's not doing that great, and he's already 70. So yeah, I mean, all he needs is some parasites from the water, and he's fucked. So yeah, but yeah, they actually meet Archimedes, and finally Indiana Jones gets to use his linguistic skills, and he's talking classical Greek to him, and he's just like, wow, Archimedes, man, that was cool. I like that. Yeah, I really like that. But then, of course, Helena has to butt in, and she's talking Greek too. And she's like, I'm such a big fan of yours. And he's like, what's fan mean? I mean, it's just so, it's just like, she just has to ruin everything. Like, get out of here. I want Indiana Jones to interact with Archimedes. I mean, there was just so many times in the movie I wish Indiana Jones had just clocked her. Like, there was a part, I think, back in Tangier, where she called him a grave robber, and I just wanted Indiana Jones to just bitch slap the bejesus out of her. Like, who the hell are you talking about, bitch? You're freaking stealing this stuff for money. I'm trying to preserve it, give it to museums and stuff. I just hated this character. And here it's like she just has to butt in and take up all the oxygen in the room. And eventually she's like, no, Indy, you have to come back to your time. And she punches him and knocks him out, which is absurd. I mean, how many times has Indiana Jones been punched and not knocked out? Remember the big Kraut, the big German mechanic in Raiders of the Lost Ark? I mean, Indy took some fucking punches from that guy, and he was fine. The little old 110-pound Phoebe Waller-Bridge is gonna, And yeah, of course they had her punching guys and using her elbows and stuff, and I'm like, okay, your hand and wrist would be jacked up. Like, she doesn't even do that thing like, after punching a guy. And it's just like, you're not going to do, I mean, it might hurt, but you're not going to do any damage, honey. Like, stop it. And so basically the movie ends with Indy waking up back in New York, 1969. The screen cut to black, and we have like no idea how they made it back. Basically, I guess they just took Teddy's plane. And it's just like, okay, but how did they figure out the dial to set it back? I mean, it's just like, because essentially Archimedes had the dial of destiny only go one way. He basically wanted somebody from the future to come and save him. So he set it to only work to come to that specific day and place. And somehow that doesn't fuck up history. Like, Archimedes was supposed to lose that battle and die, but okay. So it's kind of, yeah, that's another plot hole. Just don't think about it kind of thing. And so the movie ends. Indy wakes up. Marion shows up, and they kind of reconcile. And it was nice seeing. Damn, I can't remember her name, the woman who played Marion, but it was nice seeing her again. And man, she's gotten old. I have to say, Harrison Ford's old as shit. I mean, he's 80. But the part where you see him without a shirt on, I was like, dude, you're in great shape for your age, man. Like, he had less body fat than I do. And I'm in pretty good shape. But, I mean, this guy... And I know he was doing like 40 miles a day on his stationary bike. And, he was really, really in tip-top shape. So, good for him. Good for him. But, I mean, it's just... and then the way the movie ends, it's just... He grabs his hat, and it just fades out pretty much. And I'm just like, okay. That's supposed to be the last Indiana Jones film. That's just so much better than the Last Crusades ending. My God. It's just, man, what a waste. They could have done so much more. I mean, they could have done anything. Could have done anything. I mean, have them go after Atlantis. Have them go fight the Nazis in World War II. Go have them fight the communists. I mean, anything. Have them go to space, be part of Apollo. Who knows? I mean, anything. And this, I feel like this could have worked a lot better if they had done it right. I mean, hell, Nerd said 6 months ago when Short Round won the Oscar, like, man, I bet you Disney wishes they had hired him for this movie. I'm like, yeah, they probably do. And, it's just like, there's so many things they could have done in this. They could have done The Fate of Atlantis, Because this movie really does come across as, just comes across as like a mediocre Indiana Jones book. And it just sucks, man, because they really could have done something great, I think. The marketing, I mean, pretty much everything they did for marketing in this movie was shit. Like, I don't even think they got the title of the movie right. Like, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Like, what the fuck is that? But one of the leaked supposed names of the movie, I remember it was like 2 years ago, was going to be Indiana Jones and the Empire of Evil. But, that kind of sounded okay. A lot better than Dial of Destiny, my God. Shit, I mean, I remember when that came out, I was like, what the fuck is that? And the trailers, I thought every single trailer sucked. They couldn't even get the music right in the trailers. Yeah, and that was the thing, too, in this movie. John Williams, I mean, God bless him. He's the greatest movie composer of all time, but he hasn't done a great score, I think, since, I don't know, episode 1, maybe episode 3. But, yeah, I mean, come on, he's the greatest of all time, but he's 91 or something, so he's kind of run out of ideas, I guess. And basically, his score in this one is just rehashing the old music, which is distracting because it's like these songs are so ingrained with the images of the old movies that it just took me out of it. I'm like, oh, there's a song from The Chase and Last Crusade, or oh, there's a song from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and just all this stuff. And it just took me out of it. But yeah, as far as marketing, all the trailers sucked. The build-up, there was like no build-up for this movie at all. Like, they should have done what they did with Star Wars. Have, do a remaster, 4K remaster of Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, maybe Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and release them this year. Like, have Raiders come out in January, Temple of Doom February, Last Crusade in March, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, have it come out in April, and that would have been a perfect lead up for this. I mean, I think they released Raiders of the Lost Ark in theaters here and there, but I mean, they didn't market it. It was just probably the theaters were trying to do it. I guess they are doing okay with the toys, like the Hasbro's got some classic figures coming out and stuff, but it's like, I mean, they don't look good enough for me to buy them, but I guess the Uber fans will buy them, but kids aren't buying this stuff. That's the thing. It's so much time has gone by, and they haven't done anything to cultivate the Indiana Jones franchise. There's an entire generation of kids who are now 15 to 20 who have probably never really gotten into Indiana Jones. And that's a travesty. I mean, this is one of the greatest franchises of all time, and yeah, it just sucks, man. They could have done so much. Don't they have like an Indiana Jones game coming out, video game coming out? I'm like, why the fuck is that not out before the movie? Like, you spent $300 million on this movie, and you did nothing to promote it. Nothing. You premiered it at Cannes. That was a disaster, and spoils. I mean, the entire movie was spoiled by that. Like, I knew going into the movie pretty much beat for beat what was going to happen in the movie. And, I mean, the reviews were not good. It had a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes, which some people were like, that's Critics suck, and I don't agree with them. And I'm like, I don't usually either, but these guys have every incentive to be kissing this movie's ass because it's Disney, you know? And they didn't like it, and they let it be known. So it's like, oh, shit. This must be really bad. And it's just, man, everything they've done has just been a disaster. And I think that, again, goes straight to Kathleen Kennedy. I mean, what has she done right with this? What has she done right? I remember James Mangold was freaking out on Twitter, getting into it with fans and stuff. And it's like, okay, stop that. Like, somebody needed to come out and be like, hey, I think you should go see our movie. This is going to be really good, and it's going to be Harrison Ford's last hurrah as Indiana Jones, and da 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 da. You know, somebody should have been positively promoting the movie, and nobody was doing that. I think Kathleen Kennedy's in such a bubble that she just thinks she can shit and, you know, shit on a plate and everybody's going to take a piece. You know, it's like, no, no, not after what you did to Star Wars, honey. Not after that. And it just, you know, it just sucks because I feel like us fans could have done such a better job, especially the ones who know Indiana Jones' life and adventures and stories. And, you know, this shouldn't be that hard to do. Like, I mean, these adventures are pretty, I wouldn't say simple, but I mean, they're, you know, I mean, just look at Romancing the Stone, the Tomb Raider games, the Uncharted games. I mean, all that stuff, you know, Indiana Jones gave birth to all that stuff, you know? Like, these things aren't that hard to do, you know? But for whatever reason, the last two Indiana Jones movies have had such a hard time doing it. And it's just, it's sad. I think they've just lost touch. And, well, the thing is, they don't know the source material that gave birth to Indiana Jones. You know, those adventure serials and, you know, what was that movie with Charlton Heston, The Secret of the Incas or whatever, you know, all those kind of cheesy action adventure movies from the 40s and 50s. Like, that's what gave birth to Indiana Jones. I mean, that's why my grandfather, the World War II vet, could sit down and enjoy an Indiana Jones movie because it's good guys versus bad guys. We're going around the world trying to find, you know, objects of significance, and we're trying to save the world or save humanity. And, you know, we're kind of growing and becoming better people along the way. I mean, just look at how Indy and his father's relationship changes throughout Last Crusade. I mean, that's one of the reasons why that's my favorite Indiana Jones movie. But I mean, you look at this movie, what changes? What happens? Like, Indiana Jones is back in his shitty apartment at the end. It's just like we haven't really gone or done anything of significance. So, yeah, I'm just like, man, I don't want to ever talk about this fucking movie again. So, that's why I'm talking so much about it. I'm just like, man, I just never want to talk about this again. But if I had to recommend it or not to you guys, if you're a big Indiana Jones fan, don't go see this. Yeah, just wait until streaming. Check it out. And I don't think you're going to like it, but it's worth seeing, I guess, if you're a big fan. It's just, for me, there's only 3 Indiana Jones movies. It ends with them riding off into the sunset, and the books and the games that take place after that are fine. It's just whatever magic the original 3 movies had, they just can't recreate that nowadays. You know, too much of a corporate entrenched system in the movie industry now. You don't have the freedom, the skills, the imagination. You just don't have that. And you have to remember too, these movies were done with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and Frank Marshall and Harrison Ford. This was them at their peak. Like, this was, yeah, the golden era of all that. And it's just lost, you know. But this movie and Crystal Skull and whatever the hell LucasArts and Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy, whatever they do, they can't take the original 3 movies away from me. They can't. I mean, I travel the world. I got my Indiana Jones hat I wear around the world. And everywhere I go, I get compliments about it because everybody loves Indiana Jones. I mean, the adventure, the good versus evil, the artifacts, the history, the knowledge, it's just everybody loves that. And nothing will ever take that away from me. And if I have children, they're going to be just as big of fans of Indiana Jones as I am. And I'll always have the books, I'll always have the video games, I'll always have the movies, the original 3 movies. So, yeah. I just, it's just like, man, I just don't know what to think of this movie. It's just, do I wish it was never made? Yeah. Was it nice seeing Indiana Jones again? Yeah, kind of, but I'd rather it be a great movie. And that's the thing. Like, you're living up to the original 3 Indiana Jones movies. Why are you making a 5 out of 10? You have to make a 9 out of 10 movie. It's just, you either make a great movie or don't do it. This was not ever going to be a great movie, so just don't make it. And I hope Disney and Lucasfilm, I hope they lose a fuck ton of money. And it's such a shame because, I mean, if you look at the original Indiana Jones movies, these movies were making a fuck ton of money, man. Profit margins that we will never see again. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think, cost, what, $15 million? Made like $380 million. I mean, if you, let's say promotion, marketing for the movie costs like $5 million. So let's just say it was a $20 million movie. That movie made like 17, 18 times what it cost. You're not going to see that nowadays. I mean, what was the biggest success for Disney this year? Guardians of the Galaxy 3? That made like 2 or 3 times what it cost. I mean, you're just not going to see 15 times, 18 times. You're just not going to see those profit margins again. And, it's just sad, man. But we'll always have the old stuff. I want to start collecting the Indiana Jones comics, but they are expensive as fuck. And again, that's another thing Lucasfilm could have done. They could have re-released the Indiana Jones comics. They could have remastered the old video games. They could have remastered the old movies and released them back in the theaters. Like, they could have just done. It's like, here, just come see our movie because it's Indiana Jones. Yeah, just come see our movie. It's like, no, motherfucker, you got to build up to it. Like, why can't you use what they did with Star Wars in the 90s as a template? I mean, why was Episode 1 such a big movie? Because we had the toys in the mid-90s getting big. Then we had Lucas re-release the movies in the theater in 97. Even to this day, that's still one of the biggest theater experiences of my entire life for seeing the original 3 Star Wars movies in the theater back in 97 when I was 9 and 10 years old. It was amazing. Amazing. The only thing that can compare is seeing Lord of the Rings in the theaters. I mean, it was just huge. And then 2 years later, what do we get? Episode 1, boom, $1 billion movie. Or $900 million movie. I mean, they should have done something like that with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. But instead, we might have one of the biggest bombs of all time. So, yeah, guys. Thanks for watching this. And this definitely is cathartic, getting all this shit out of my head. But, yeah, I mean, it's a shame. It's a waste. But, yeah, guys, let me know what you think and take it easy.